We bring people from around the country to Atlanta to just have conversations about what do you know that works in urban schools and urban education. Dr. Asa Hilliard used to say, I'm not going to say it as well as he did, we don't need any more research and scholarship and all. Right. We know what works. In fact, we have model after model after model of what works to teach children from urban schools and urban communities. We don't need any more research. What we need is the will to apply what we know. And so what we want to do is bring people together to talk about what we know so that people can then apply it. And that's what Sources is all about. It's about bringing those people together. And the Benjamin E. Mays Lecture is an opportunity for us to bring a nationally recognized scholar or a person that's doing key work. And I'm very purposeful about saying it that way because I think that sometimes we miss people who are important to the movement.
Bryan Stevenson, I think, was one of those.
Yeah, Adelaide Sanford.
Adelaide Sanford, right.
And we miss them because they're not part of the academy community, but they're doing critical work, and we need to listen to them and learn from them. So the lecture is really an opportunity to bring somebody like that to Atlanta to allow our community to just learn from them for a little while. So Adelaide Sanford, Bryan Stevenson, who just argued in front of the Supreme Court to stop us from sending our children to school for life in prison. Right. You know, our community needs to hear from Bryan. Sonia Nieto, Jeannie Oaks. So we've brought some people, some that are more high profile, some that people just need to know about. Yeah.
What are some experiences you can explain or offer out to the community or other organizations and possibly schools that you feel like they can follow to achieve the same goals that you're trying to achieve?
Yes, good questions. So the first one that comes to mind is the idea of collective agency. I think that part of American culture pushes us to achieve individually. Right? We value our individuality. We value individual achievement. So, for instance, as a science educator, I'll use an example. Open your science textbook and turn to a page, and I'm sure that you'll find a biography of some great scientist that made some great discovery and contribution to the scientific community. But if you really, really think about it, that person probably had a host of other people around them that were working with them to make that discovery. But we tend to value the contributions of the individual. And as a result, we tend to work as individuals. I think the power in the Crimson, and one of the things I've learned just from working with teachers, is that we probably need to do a better job of working collectively and thinking about things from the perspective of what can we do together. Not that, so that means that I don't have to be the expert, but I have to have the expert at the table, right? I don't have to have all the resources, but somebody at the table has to have the resources that we need. And so if we work collectively, we can probably go a lot farther. But the other thing about this idea of collective impact is with teachers, that many of our teachers feel like they're kind of out there on their own. That they go into their classrooms, they close their door, and they work with their students, and that's their responsibility. And I applaud them and say, that's fine. I mean, because many of them are doing some amazing things with that strategy. The problem is that there are a lot of systems and structures and policies that are actually influencing what happens in the classroom, what children have access to, and what teachers have access to, and what parents have access to, that an individual teacher is going to really, really struggle to change. The only way those things are going to change is if teachers begin to come together and act collectively with a collective voice to begin to push back on those things. And I guess I shouldn't even limit it to teachers, because there needs to be some coalition building, right? Teachers with leadership, with parents, with children, speaking and saying, this is what we need to see happening in urban education. So I think if one of the things I've really learned is that while I understand, individual achievement, there's a lot that we can probably accomplish and go further if we were to work collectively. I like to say that one of the biggest and probably most detrimental shifts for the community is when we went from fighting and caring for and nurturing our children to fighting for, caring, and nurturing my child.
So, I won't say word on the street, but I heard that you're a science guy,
I am
and I would like to
very
ask you
proud
a
science guy. I
Yeah,
am.
I love it. I love it. I'd like to ask you, how did you get to that point?
Yeah.
Where did science lie in you as an individual, and what are some history behind that led you to be the person you are now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that most academics, most professors, if you dig a little bit, if you scratch the surface and dig deeply, you find that they just spend their lives researching themselves. They're in therapy, right? And that's pretty much me, because the work that I do is really about opening the door to science for children of color, for girls, for children that are often denied access to science. And it's because I was denied access to science in many ways. When I was in elementary school, I was immediately tracked out of those advanced courses, the science courses. In fact, I was led to believe that I was probably not the most intelligent child in the room, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, you know. And it was all around a test. It was all around a test. Somebody gave me a test. I scored a certain number on that test. And based on that test, they assumed my intelligence and my potential. And we do it to children every day. Every day. And based on that test, it also colored my experiences in school and the way that my teachers, their expectations of me and the way they treated me and the classes I had access to. So I went through school largely believing that I was a marginal student, of marginal intelligence, that I was pretty good. I was a good writer. I was a good artist. But if you asked me about science and mathematics, I would quickly tell you that I was not a very good mathematics student, and I did not enjoy science and math. I just didn't enjoy them. And that was taught to me by my school and my teachers. In my 11th grade year, I rode my first roller coaster at Kings Dominion. Kings Dominion is Paramount Kings Dominion now, up in Richmond, Virginia. The roller coaster is called the King Cobra. It was a short little ride. It took all of 10 seconds to ride the roller coaster. 10 seconds. I mean, it was a quick ride, right? Off and on. But I fell in love with roller coasters on that day and decided, after I got off my first ride, that what I wanted to do for the rest of my life was build roller coasters. I just wanted to design and build roller coasters. So here's a kid who hated math and science for his entire life, and now all of a sudden he wants to be an engineer, So I went ahead and I started applying to colleges of engineering around the country. I got into a school, Norfolk State University, which is a historically black college in Norfolk, Virginia. Norfolk State said to me, we don't have an engineering program, but we do have a physics program, and they're basically the same thing, which is a lie. They're not the same thing, not the same thing. But my parents encouraged me to take the position to go to Norfolk State, largely because Norfolk State was going to pay for everything. They gave me a full ride. They gave me a full scholarship to come there, and as a physics major. So as a physics major, there is no ramping up in terms of your math and science. Your first day as a physics major, you sit in a calculus class. First day, you start with calculus, and I'm sitting in a room with kids who took calculus in high school. So this was a review for them. It was the first time I'd ever seen it as content. And I worked really hard, and I ended up getting an A in that calculus class. And I ended up continuing to get A's at Norfolk State, and ended up graduating from Norfolk State as the top science major at Norfolk State University. Thank you. I'm not bragging, but I mean, and then I left Norfolk State, and I got a full ride to come down here to Georgia Tech and study mechanical engineering. And then shortly after about 3 years at Tech, I realized that while I enjoyed working at the bench, I was spending a lot of time in schools. I was spending a lot of time writing curricula. I was spending a lot of time doing everything but being at the bench. And so I left Tech and moved over to Emory University, and I finished out my PhD in educational studies at Emory, but still carried that passion and joy for engineering and science and mathematics.